Ramesh, lovely to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, and lovely to see you as well.
So, firstly, define who you are, really. Who are you?
Who am I? That's something I've never been asked. If I were to say a human being who is not arrogant, but still moderately bossy and moderately sure of himself, I think I'd stop there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Who's inspired you in life as a leader? Who's inspired you?
Well, I think I've been very lucky. I mean, I've had some amazing incidents in life. I mean, I met Her Majesty the Queen when I went to the palace to collect my OBE, which was very inspiring in itself. I met Archbishop Desmond Tutu in 1994 at the church next to the South African embassy, St. Martin's in the Fields. And there was a choir from St. Paul's School in up north. I think there's either Huddersfield or Hartlepool. The children had come along. We had to be there and learn the new South African national anthem. And then the man himself, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, appeared. And the first thing he said to us was, look, let's all get up. We're going to walk around and we're going to shake hands. We're going to shake hands with everybody. So we did that for about 5-6 minutes. We sat down and he gave an amazing speech. And you had to listen to the man and his humility and the forgiveness within him in terms of what had happened in South Africa and the start of the Truth and Reconciliation as well. And then when the ceremony finished with the children having sung various hymns and him joining in, he told us we are all going to hold hands and walk out of the church together into Trafalgar Square. It's quite something. And those of us who came out, we all had, at the same time, we all had a smile on our faces and we were thinking, wow, this is what a church service should be like. But I think the most inspirational day for me was in November 1995, when I met Mother Teresa and spent a day with her. I'd been at a wedding the night before, and about midnight, one of the guests asked me, who was a client of mine, asked me whether I wanted to fly from Mumbai to Kolkata and meet Mother, because they were handing over an orphanage they'd built for the Sisters of Charity. And of course, I said yes, immediately got a flight sorted out, didn't sleep the whole night. And we turned up in the morning, and the first thing we saw was the little children being, 2-3-day-old children being picked up from bins and dustbins and being looked after because the mothers had abandoned them. You saw that, and then you looked at different aspects of the charity, different things they did, mothers who had mental health problems, people who were deranged, etc., right till the end of the day, when she said we were going to go to the home of the dying. And Mother asked me to travel with her in a car. As soon as we got to this home, there were children playing outside. They all stopped playing and they all wanted to touch Mother's feet and be blessed by her. And the way they started screaming, all the mothers came out as well. They wanted to do the same. When we reached the door, Mother said, look, only Ramesh is going to come in with me, no one else. And of course, the other dignitaries were already inside. And as we walked in, we saw volunteers from Médecins Sans Frontières trying to get people who were horizontal to sit up and say, look, you must eat, otherwise you're going to die. And they were having so much trouble until Mother walked in. And as soon as they heard that Mother was in the building, they sat up. And she went around sort of patting their heads. And to see 70, 80-year-olds sort of crying, and I'd been sort of bottling it up. I feel it even now. I'd been bottling it up all day, and it just suddenly came out. And I thought, wow, I'm in the presence of a real saint, somebody who's doing something so much more important than what I was doing as a lawyer and what she was giving back. And for an Albanian lady who's Christian and in a predominantly Hindu nation, She had no connection at all, but how she managed to bully the Indian government to give her land, how she managed to get things done, and the humanity itself. And I mean, for me, that was absolutely the most important day of my life. And I came back. Mother gave me a prayer which I was able to read on Channel 5. They used to have a program, a week of charity giving, and I was invited to be on TV and read out the prayer, and I still have the prayer with me. And it's something that always reminds me that, look, there has to be humility and an understanding, and that we're really small cogs in a very big wheel, and really we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah. And what's been the greatest learning in your career?
I think firstly, not to look at life and career as a ladder, but to say, look at it as a maze and say, go, whether you turn left, right, or whether you meet an obstacle somewhere, and then find a way out as well. And it's always been about saying, look, you take your work seriously, you take your family and friends seriously, but never take yourself seriously, and just go with the flow in a way, because things will happen if they're meant to happen, and not to get too stressed about it.
That's fair enough. Success and failure come to us all. How's it impacted on you?
I've been very lucky. I've been lucky that I think success is a question of what you yourself determine to be success, and whether you reach a certain level and you think, okay, fine, I've tasted it, and it's not what it's cut out to be. Maybe I move somewhere else and do something different. So I think in terms of career, people in the legal profession always aspire to be a partner. And when they get there, they realize it's a lot more responsibility, a lot more sort of looking at and counting paper clips, although I mean small. So the different paper clips now with the computer. And then not sort of enjoying the reason why you wanted to be a lawyer and being a lawyer and having fun and making a difference. So, and I think, again, in terms of failure, it's a question of saying, are you a failure in your own eyes, or are you a failure in somebody else's eyes? And if you try something and you fail, if you learn from it, fine. But if you don't try, then you can go through life not doing anything, living up to a very old age and saying, what have I actually achieved? So I think I'd say that, look, I used to think it mattered what people thought, but then maybe at this ripe old age, I think what matters is what I think.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Has there been an incident in your life that's really impacted on the way you look at things?
Yes, Chris. I think if you go back to around the time when I was 7, 8 years old, and my mother passed away, and I realized that with 3 other siblings and a father who worked all the time, that we had to really look after ourselves, bring ourselves up in terms of saying, do we just remain sort of slum dogs, or do we do something to get out of it? And then a lot of it sort of centered on saying, look, the only way out of the gutter was through education. So you focused on education, you focused on being the best at everything in terms of sports as well, and saying that was going to be your route out of what would otherwise have been a life of poverty. And then I think you make your own sort of luck in a way. A-level results came out before that. One of my tutors, who would come from a farming family in Warwickshire, was very, very keen for me to read law, because he knew I was interested. B, he was very keen that the only place for me would be the London School of Economics. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but I just sort of continued to work hard and get my grades. And then when I got my grades and realized the financial implications of traveling from Kenya to UK, I mean, it was a no-go so for my dad. So we started working on another plan, which was to say that I would be talking, going out to different hotels, talking to people, and getting my father to make safari shoes for him, because he made shoes for the first ever Tarzan, Johnny Weissmuller, and then James Stewart, and all these different actors. They used to come to the shop and tell my dad, look, brilliant shoes. I've had them for 14 years. And then I'd say to my dad, no wonder we never make money. We're making shoes. But, and then I think my very dear friend who's still in Kenya and who's a big industrialist now, he was with some people at a friend's home, and they were discussing everyone's results and where people were going. So it was a big thing about leaving Kenya and coming to the UK to study. When my name came up and he said, look, he's got the grades for LSE, but he won't be able to go because of financial reasons. The lady of the house happened to be there, and she said, I want to meet this boy. I'm going to send him to LSE. And she did. And in the end, we worked out that, look, it wasn't going to be just a grant, it'd be a loan, and we repaid it and feel better for it. But she helped me change my life. But the extraordinary thing, Grace, is that what goes around comes around. Because a few years later, she turned up in the UK with a family because they had a deaf and dumb child, 2 years old. And within 6 months, husband had a massive heart attack and died at the age of 46. And suddenly she was helpless. I just qualified as a lawyer. And then I was able to step in and say, fine, I can now look after your affairs and help out, which I did for a very long time until she passed away. So in a way, it was a debt which was sort of honored.
Moving. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would say, well, I think firstly I would talk about this idea of a maze as opposed to a ladder. And I would also say, enjoy life, see it as a gift from God. See it as an opportunity to have a lot of fun and enjoy all the different experiences. Again, anything you do, take it seriously and work hard at it to make it a success, whether it's your studies or your career. Not take yourself too seriously, but at least participate, try things out, enjoy, and not just be a bystander in life.
But it's more than that, isn't it, with you? Because you're a great believer in friendship as well, the power of friendship.
Yes, but I think it's always a question of saying you got to be open and you got to start with that. You got to be, and then even in my career, we talked about saying you give first. You give to people, and if you give, then you'll receive a lot more.
Yeah, someone recently said to me, "You got to choose to trust."
Yes, but I think you can stop and say, look, I'm going to choose to trust. But sometimes you trust and then it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But that's again like saying, I tried something and I failed at it, but it doesn't matter. You learn from it. So I think either you are open and completely trusting, or you become cynical and not trust anyone. So I agree. I think it's very difficult for anyone to really achieve that halfway house, because people say, look, my goodness, you've been through your life and 20 people have cheated you, and you said, fine, next person I meet, do I trust that person, or do I say I've got to be a bit more careful?
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for your time.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I hope this inspires someone, at least one person.